Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to call this meeting of the Moore County Board of Elections to order. We'll begin by standing and saying with me, please, the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to thank everybody for coming out today and joining us. We'll begin with a roll call of members. And as well, please state whether you have any conflict of interest with the matters on the agenda this afternoon.
Holly Powell, no conflict.
Martin Carpenter, no conflict.
Bob Howell, no conflict.
Antoinette Kelly, no conflict.
Susan T. Adams, no conflict.
Thank you very much. Next on the agenda is the public comment section. Do we have anyone who has joined who would like to address the board?
I have one signed up, and it's Mr. Malcolm Hall.
Thank you, Amber. Mr. Hall? Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon. It's very simple. I'd just like to thank the Board of Elections, particularly Tawana. Whenever I sent out a request for information, she was right on it. Even on a Sunday night, she was able to get me the information. Being unaffiliated, I wasn't with a particular party, so she was also assisting me in the areas of getting the canvassing, the walking network out. Matter of fact, I found out that the sheet she was giving me was actually better than was given to the party chairs to give out to the candidates, because they had to update those as they went along, where mine was updated based on registration at the time. So thank you again, Tawana.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. We appreciate your coming today and for your previous engagement in the many aspects of our community. So thank you. If there are no other public comments, we'll move on to our plan for one-stop voting, aka early voting is included in that. And I will turn it over for initial presentation to Director Ms. Twyna Dixon. Thank you.
So, I presented the board with the recommendation of the one-stop plan, and it's before them now to review. And I hope they did have an opportunity to review it. Sorry. And from looking at just being here and past elections, it was just my recommendation to do 2 sites for Moore County for the primary. I do know that sometimes a primary election can be slow. At this moment, we don't know who the candidates are because we are filing kind of quickly. As everyone knows, filing will begin in December 4th. It will end to December 15th, so we're not quite sure who will be on the ballot. My main concern for choosing the 2 locations, everyone is familiar with Carthage. It has been established for a very long time. So we can open it up, plenty of space. Anne Marie has done a wonderful job of being able to put it in such a way that there's not a lot of traffic. It can move freely. We did it with this go round with the municipal election, especially with the voter ID. So we know that with the voter ID and things that are taking place, that we won't have like a lot of bottleneck. We will be able to process everybody quicker. So we're good with Carthage. Me and Anne Marie did go out about a couple of months ago, and we did visit the Southern Pines Land and House Trust. They have a huge gymnasium, which I did send you the pictures for you to review. No one uses the site. It's not shared by anyone. They are willing to let us use the site at no cost to the BOE. It has plenty of parking. There's actually parking on the side of the building, on the front of the building. There's parking towards the back of the building where we can actually place the the poll workers to park. So they're not taking any parking away from those who are coming to vote. We have a good spot for curbside voting right there where the awning was. We have a good spot for those who are handicapped. There is actually where the white fencing was, there is a side entrance that we can also use that's handicap accessible with 2 double doors that we can also use for anybody who would like to use the side entrance for handicap accessibility. I'm very appreciative of that area because basically they gave us the run of the mill of the whole place. Even if we had overflow parking, we could use the higher level and just have people walk down to the area. Only thing they asked us was just kind of protect the floor, which was okay. We could just put tarps or something down just to protect the floor, no scratches. But like I said, because there's no one there, or we have to share the building, there's no one there that we have to compete with the building. It's just for the voters and for the BOE. That is it. No one else there for us to compete with. I just think it would just be a better location because how big it is, we can vote double the size, just like the agriculture building. And that's what we were looking for. I think it's a good location because we're saying that we want to reach our community. So let's put it in the community where we feel like it needs to be at. It's right off of 1, right down the street from the Douglas Center. We have used that location before as an early voting site, and it did quite well. So we just have to put directionals. We have our big floating signs, flags, where we can tell people to vote and to point them into the right direction. We are going to put security measures because it's going to be new. So we want to make sure that people are aware where we are and things of that nature. So the times, of course, General Assembly, we set our times, both sites matching 8 to 7:30. There's no difference with that. We just wanted to do all the Saturdays because most people do their errands on Saturdays. For doing the 8 to 3, all 3 Saturdays, no difference with that. We were asking for no Sundays because as you saw in the email that I sent out, Moore County has never really done Sundays. The first time we've done Sunday was in 2020 when COVID was about hitting on the scene. It is not really, not say well liked, but it's just, that's not something that the people here are used to. It's not really well received. But it will give my staff and my poll workers just a chance to kind of recuperate because even though we're not working on Sunday, sometimes we do have to come into the office and catch up on work, make sure things balance, make sure things are the way that they need to be so that we can be refreshed on Monday and continue to do what it is that we need to do. And I just feel that if we have just those, it's just 2 days to give us enough time to kind of catch our breath so that we're not so tired and we're not making mistakes, that it would just be a good election and everything will work out the way that it needs to be worked out. And so that's why I recommended what I did.
Madam Director, can you just go over what you saw were the drawbacks at Aberdeen Parks and Rec and at the Freedom Hall and why they didn't really match up to what you were looking for?
So with the Aberdeen Parks and Rec, getting in and out during traffic, during 5 o'clock traffic, is very congested. You have one way in, one way out. So you have to jump traffic, 4 lanes, depending on which way you are going. When it comes to the Aberdeen Parks and Rec, I did speak to the parks director. They were kind of hoping that it would just be used as an election day site because it's hard for them to schedule their events when we're coming in because a lot of times, and it's not our fault, but a lot of times when they want to schedule their events and have their activities, they're having to block off their days for us. And then a lot of times we're not using those days because sometimes our stuff does get pushed back because the General Assembly or things that get held up in the legislature pushes it back to May. And those are days that they could have used to schedule whatever type of activity, not just for them, but Sometimes they use that room that we use for birthdays, baby showers, or whatever the case may be. A lot of times, the signage, and I know that there used to be a thing with the signage, but they're not too friendly when it comes to the signage. The campaign facilities is a little tight right there, right at the door. We did have an incident where the campaigners did get into a fight prior to us being able to make it down there to put everything back in order. With this site that we're looking at the Southern Pines Trust, if you saw in the picture, there's that roundabout with the tree. We don't even have to like cage it in, that the campaigners could actually have that whole area. And they're able to access everybody coming in. So they actually have, not a lot, I'm not trying to give them too much, but a little bit more freedom than they would have over there at the Aberdeen Parks and Rec Center. At the Freedom Hall, there is no place to place campaigning whatsoever. And I know that as the BOE, we should not be mindful of that, but they are there to represent their candidate. They are there to do a job as well. And so we do want to be mindful of that as well. It's just the way, there is not a good way to put a 50-foot buffer. It's barely enough to put a 25-foot buffer zone out there. From the front door, just 25 is the ramp that comes up to the door, and there's the fencing. That's just 25 feet. 50 feet is actually to the street where the line hits. I do have pictures, and I can print those off for the board to see as well when me and Anne Marie went out there to measure. Also, one of the things that we did notice was the electrical outlets. There's not a lot of electrical outlets in that building. There's only 4. So my concern was we were trying to figure out how to be able to run cords without tripping voters coming in. Anne Marie did have a good idea about setting up the tables, and they run through with our poll workers so that the voters wouldn't trip on it. But it's just not a lot of cords out. So we don't want to overpower the building. I'm not quite sure how much that building can take. Nothing against the building. It's a very nice building. But it was just, that was one of our concerns as well about the electrical. There was just 2 on the front door when you came in, and 2 on the very far end when we also came on the other side of the gymnasium as well. We weren't quite sure about the parking. We know that when you came in, there was like a few spaces here, a few spaces, and then we would have to put our poll workers on the back side. So the parking, I know Mr. Jackson said that there was a back space for us to use as well. So we would either have to put our poll workers behind the gate on the grass so that we can make enough room for voters to park on. And so we just were not quite sure how that would work for everyone in that area. It's a little tight for us. And so that's what that was my concern for that plan.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
What was the name of the school of the Southern Pines Land and House Trust? I want to make sure I've got the
Sure.
right.
The Southern Pines Primary School.
It's off of Pennsylvania. Do you know what?
Right, on Carlisle, yeah.
Yes.
One off of Pennsylvania.
Ms. Dixon, I take it that you and Anne Marie checked out the accessibility of electrical outlets in the gym at the West Southern Pines Center?
Yes, sir.
AKA the.
Yes, sir, we have.
Okay, that seems satisfactory. And the clarification for the Aberdeen Parks and Rec, so they're good with having that as a polling place on election day.
Yes, sir.
But it would just complicate matters for them for all of the early voting.
Yes, sir.
I had a couple of other, as y'all were talking, a couple of procedural questions for clarification that I perhaps should have brought up before we got into the specifics of your recommendation. Since there are a variety of components, including, I guess they're really, depending on how picky you got, when we got about the calendar, but one has to do with the days and the hours for the one-stop/early voting schedule, and the other has to do with the locations. So we've got, it looks like obviously all three of these include the Ag Center that we're familiar with. And then there's the three possible locations for the two sites. Is it your understanding or recommendation that we, so it seems like we've got a couple of different questions. One is to decide which one of these three locations for sites, those three plans that the board would like to agree on, and the other would be the days and the hours. Am I making it more complicated than it has to be?
I guess I thought that her recommendation is the Ag Center and the Southern Pines Land Trust, and that this is the schedule she's recommending. So I guess the real issue is, do we take a vote on what she has given us, which I think answered kind of both of your questions, instead of trying to go through each one of this is what the director and the staff are recommending. And I guess we can do a vote, and if we're not unanimous, then I guess we can go someplace else and look at others at that point in time, because we have to be unanimous, otherwise it goes to the state and then they decide for us, and I really don't think we want the state deciding on this. I think she's laid it out very well, why she's chosen these sites, and I wasn't sure about all the Saturdays, but she says that's the way we should go, no Sundays, so I have no problems with the schedule she's got, so, anybody else wants to comment on that, but
No, thank you. You anticipated my other point, just for clarification. I think we know the stipulation about, on this particular item, that it be a unanimous decision and agreement of the board on the plan that we're going to use, not a majority vote. And if this is indeed, since I hadn't seen the other two sites before, and what the information that you sent us before had only the West Southern Pines Center as the second site, and I didn't know where these came from, if this is something that you wanted us to consider. If it is your recommendation, as Mr. Carpenter said, that your plan is the Ag Center and the West Southern Pines Center,
Yes, sir.
then that resolves at least that ambiguity that I would make.
And I just had asked the director to provide us with everything that she had here, so we would have all the information, and then she could go through it just like she did and say, this is why I didn't choose these other two, and this is why I chose the ones I did.
Right.
So I asked her to provide this for us to help us understand why she chose the sites she did.
Thank you. Tony?
No.
Well,
Tawana, I was trying to get your attention.
Oh, okay. Yes, ma'am.
Because when we were talking before, and we had suggested about going out to the Freedom Hall, I just wanted you to look at the radius of it and how much of it is actually not within the county. It takes up a lot of Hoke in Scotland County. But yes, I just wanted you to see that I did go and look at it, and I to see how it would fit into what we were looking at. And then I know that the last time we did use the Aberdeen Parks and Rec. So yes, sir,
Mhm,
that
right.
was why. So I just wanted to make clarification of why this was here. But my recommendation is just for the Ag Center, the Southern Pines, I'm sorry, that's a long name. The Southern Pines Land and Use House Trust, and both sites with uniform hours. So both sites being open from 8 to 7:30
Mhm.
and all three Saturdays,
Right.
8 to 3.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. All right,
To-
resolve that about the,
To address, I think, the question that Bob is asking, I think Bob is asking, do we want to go ahead and entertain a motion to agree or to vote to approve the two sites that the director has suggested based on the discussion we just had, and then separately address the times and dates? Or do you want to vote on the whole thing at once? And if so, do you want to make a motion?
I will do that. I will make the motion then. I move that we accept the recommendation of the director that we have 2 sites for the primary early voting, the Moore County Ag Center and the Southern Pines Land and House Trust location, and that we also approve the time schedule that she's given us for early voting, which includes 12 days, weekdays, and 3 Saturdays, with the times indicated.
Is there a second?
I second that motion.
Thank you. Any discussion?
I think we should consider adding a Sunday for some limited number of hours. I know that you've given us the figures of how many people voted in a prior election on a Sunday. But I think that we do need to consider giving that opportunity to people regardless of what the history is and how many people have voted on that day. So I would like to consider adding Sunday on the 25th.
Okay, go ahead. So Holly, are you making a motion to amend Marty's?
Yes, I'm moving that we amend the days and hours to include voting for 3 hours on Sunday, the 25th, at both locations.
So what would be the time frame?
Tawana, what were the hours on Sunday when we have had Sunday voting?
2 to 5.
2 to 5. Does that sound right?
2 to 5. That's what I would propose.
Now, is there a
So I have
second?
a question.
Yeah, we have,
Oh, you can go ahead.
Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. No, go ahead.
I'll let you
No,
finish.
no, go ahead, go ahead. Mhm. Go ahead.
Clarification for me. You want to amend his motion that was seconded? And so we have to go back and do that?
Do we have to vote on the motion first?
We need to vote on the motion first, don't we? I'm trying to get
I think we need
clarification of the process here.
Your amendment to my motion,
Yes,
and then we would vote, because if we accept it, then we vote on my motion as
as amended,
modified
right.
by hers.
Okay,
And further, my understanding is, and if there's a parliamentarian in the House that understands more than I do, that first of all, and I apologize for, I think this is already veering off, but just for a point of clarification, it's probably a point of order. There is a motion to amend the original motion. That needs to be seconded, then we can discuss that motion to amend. Here's the question that I raised, and I'll tell you what I believe.
Mr. Chairman, you have a question beside you.
you got parliamentary procedures. You have 2 different things on the board. You need to vote on the first one, and then you can,
No, ma'am.
No,
Before you vote
Okay,
on
hold
the,
on, I need one person talking. Let me finish what I'm saying. Marty made a motion. Then you want to amend his motion, and we need a second to your amendment. Is that what you're saying?
yes,
And then we can vote on the entire thing.
not quite.
Okay,
So
that's what my clarity was. That's
here's
what I
my
need.
understanding, and
Okay.
Marty, that if you want to clarify it. We will need a second to the motion to amend. We can have a discussion on the motion to amend, and we will vote on that. And it's my belief that that motion requires only a majority vote rather than, because I think it's rather than the unanimous vote that we would need to have for the overall.
And I think I agree with you on that, but we have to vote on the amendment, because if we decide to do that, then that's what goes into, because she's modifying my amendment,
Exactly,
and then we vote on that.
exactly.
So we do the second, and then we have the discussion.
Correct.
So I guess if somebody wants to second Holly's,
Okay, I do want a second because I would like to have a Sunday.
Okay, so we are now discussing the motion to amend to include Sunday voting on, Holly, did you say on the 25th?
25th.
The 25th.
2 to 5.
From 2 to 5.
So my question would be, Madam Director, how does that impact you having to add another day?
So my question is, what is the reasoning, may I ask, for this Sunday? Like, well, who's it benefiting?
I think it benefits people who, well, I think Holly began, so I'll chime in. I think it benefits people who, for a variety of reasons, were not able, have not been able. It seems from the perspective of most of the people here that there are plenty of days. Everybody should be able to get to the polls on these weekdays and these Saturdays that have been offered. But, and I understand that historically, we don't have great numbers. I think that the general election, both the primary and the main election in November, will generate, a lot of interest, will be very competitive and dare say contentious, and that will motivate a greater turnout than we have seen in primary elections previously. As a just personal anecdote that does not, it's not the world's strongest argument, but it's something that I've been made aware of in this previous municipal election. Ever since I registered to vote when I was 18 years old, perhaps with the exception of some municipal elections, I voted in every election that I have been able to. And I almost missed this very last one because of a variety of family relationships and issues, health issues. I'm the chairman of the Board of Elections, and I approved the original plan, and I was unable to get to any of the early voting sites. And thank goodness that the possibility for curbside voting was available on election day. And that's why I was able to vote in this municipal elections. Stuff happens. And in the interest within reasonable respect for what's required on the part of the staff in order to make Sunday voting possible. And I believe that it could be valuable and perhaps the only time that many Moore County voters will be able to vote.
So my question is, because you said historically, but if I'm showing you historically that Sunday voting is not an option here, that it does not turn out numbers, even when we had the primary in 2022, when Ms. Beasley was on the ballot and we still did not have a great turnout, we still tried to put Sunday voting, and this is just me asking a question, we still try to offer Sunday voting for one day for 3 hours when we have 15 days that I'm offering and 3 Saturdays, and we're just adding 3 hours for just one Sunday. Well, not 6 hours.
We can add more.
But that's not, I'm not saying about adding more, Ms. Holly. What I'm saying is, if we're saying historically, we're seeing historically that the Sunday hours does not generate that type of interest. Why do we continue every election to add Sunday voting? Historically, it's not there.
Since I'm the only one that was on the board when we discussed this in 21, and it was brought up that to get more African-American voters, that the churches would be able to, on Sunday, get their congregations on buses or transportation to bring them to a voting site. They said they think that would really help. And so the board said, okay, let's do that. You think that's going to be helpful? And if we can get out more votes with that, that's fine. And so that's what we adopted, was for that Sunday. And that reasoning was because they said the churches would then be bringing people to the polling site. Now, what I think the director's saying is that that's not what happened. That didn't happen. They didn't bring them to the polling site. So that was our rationale for the Sunday voting then. And I agree with her, 3 hours. We've already got 3 Saturdays. People have got the Saturdays to go, plus any other time, plus election day. Adding 3 hours on Sunday just adds a burden to getting 12 more people to work during that time frame as well. I'm just not sure the overall benefit of that.
With that being said, because I'm still an advocate for having at least one Sunday for the 3 hours, could we not have a Saturday for 7 and have a switch?
I don't think the board would go for not having a Saturday, but it's up to them.
I mean,
Let me make a comment.
And- I want to finish mine
Okay.
because when it came to the Sunday voting, I took a poll. And this weekend when I went out to people and I asked them about the Sunday votes because I told them about Sunday voting and the numbers and the history. Even though you may have a low number of people coming out to vote on Sunday, some of them made that their special thing to do on a Sunday. I mean, they took 2 or 3 carloads of people to vote on that Sunday because they couldn't get out them other days. Now, I don't know whether or not that means a lot to us. I mean, it may not, and I understand money is not the issue. It's about getting our poll workers out there to do it. But my thing is if we can get people out to vote, period, they should have that opportunity, at least if they want to do it on a Sunday, to do that. Because if they can't get out during the week, regardless, they can at least do it on a Sunday. Even if it is a short amount of time, they know that that's available. But my added addition to that would be would we have to have all those Saturdays?
So you're willing to take a Saturday off to add a Sunday?
I know,
What's,
That's fine.
what Saturday would you willing to drop?
the 17th, first Saturday, and just add that Sunday. And then you've got the 24th Saturday, and is that December 1st and 2nd right there?
Yes.
December, okay. And we have December.
Well, not December, no, this is, that'd be
I
March.
mean, sorry, March. I got my months mixed up. Sorry, March 2nd. We still have that. We just shortened it by 4 hours.
Well, if we're gonna give up a Saturday, it might be easier on the staff to give up the 24th, so they have a day in between the first full week and the second full week, rather than giving up that first Saturday.
And for me, it doesn't matter which Saturday. I'm just willing to give up a Saturday.
We can't do the 2nd, that's mandatory, I have to do that 2nd.
The
Okay.
You have
24th
to
is
do this-
mandatory?
No, the 2nd.
The second of.
The second.
Right, I know that.
What about
Yeah.
the February 24th, the middle Saturday?
I mean, that's, if they're
I
willing
mean, I'm
to do
talking
it.
to the board people. I'm talking to us,
Right, well,
because we're the ones that have to.
So, but she can tell us if we
And you
need
can
it,
tell
if
us
it's
If it's
mandatory.
mandatory or not.
the
The last
last
one's
Saturday.
mandatory.
The last one is mandatory,
Okay,
so
so-
whatever you do for that 17th or that 24th.
Yeah.
If you're willing to drop a Saturday for that Sunday,
And let them have some rest.
Mhm.
I'll be willing to do that one.
Then that's something else I'm looking at. I mean, because the rest.
After years of experience of watching what they have to go through, they need it.
Well, I know, because I work them, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does help.
Me too.
We both
I
have.
did it too. Yes.
I think we established.
We established that.
that. Bob, have you been a poll worker? Have you been?
I have not, and that's why I can make such
Okay.
great plans.
Okay, we did establish that last time, that real 4 of us have been poll workers before.
You already
Oh,
did that to
so-
subtract that. That's what-
Well, I just wanted to make one comment before we talk about parliamentary rules. I don't know if any of the other board members watched the state board meeting online when 2 counties before the municipals their board of elections could not agree on their hours or their number of sites. Did any of you all watch that state board meeting? It was very interesting, and I bring it up because 2 of the county's boards could not agree. And Sunday voting was one of the things that they couldn't agree on. And this was for the municipals, which we agreed we didn't need Sunday voting for our municipals. But they had taken it to the state board, and the state board voted to allow them to vote on Sundays. And the comment was, we always want to give more voters the opportunity to vote, always. So this state board has established a history of anything going to them, like hours or days in an early voting period, if it's more versus less, they're going to approve more. However, they also commented, the chair also commented that he appreciated the fact that 98 of the 100 county boards had come to a unanimous decision without sending it to the state board. So I'm sure we all want to
Oh, yes.
continue and not send it to the state board. But I just thought you might be interested in hearing how they looked at it when they
Right.
got those two.
Now, my thoughts are, trying to remember my Robert's rules when I read them there a couple of weeks ago. We would probably need to vote on your motion right now. If we reject her motion, then she can do a new motion that adds the Sunday and subtracts the Saturday as a new motion. And if we say yes to that, then my motion then goes forward as modified by her new motion.
Two new motions.
Well, we've already voted on the one and said if we say no, then we have to come back, let her do a new one. And then after that, it would be modifying mine. And if we agree unanimously that that's what would go forward, I think we technically have to do a yay or nay on hers. But yeah, but the nay gives her a chance to then redo it.
For sure, that would work, and I think that Robert himself would smile down on you and on us for doing it that way. What I have observed, but cannot quote chapter and verse in the rules of order, is in the process of a discussion, if Holly accepts what you're just suggesting as a friendly revision or amendment to her motion, then I believe that she could rephrase her motion with the trade-off of the Saturdays for the Sunday. And if that's agreeable to everyone.
We had the discussion, we weren't sure. I just mentioned that to her. I like that. And I guess, if that's what we want to do, we're in charge.
I think it's, basically, what I understand from the general statutes, that what procedures the board agrees on are valid as long as they don't grossly violate Robert's Rules of Order. In the absence of a procedure, then you default to Robert. But if you're good with that and everybody else is, then I
Would
would
you like me
ask
to amend my
Holly to
amendment?
rephrase
yes.
her new amendment. Thank you.
I'm proposing an amendment to Marty's, whatever it was, motion. That we add Sunday voting at both locations from 2 to 5 on the 25th, and we eliminate voting on Saturday, the 24th.
I'll second that.
Thank you very much. Wait a second. Any further discussion? All right, call vote on that. All in favor of that amended motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, now we are back to Marty's original motion.
And I'll restate mine, and so my motion now as modified is that we still go along with the director's recommendation of using the Moore County Ag Center and the Southern Pines Land and House Trust as voting locations, and that we have modified now the February schedule next year by adding a 2 to 5 at both our locations on the 25th of February, and we remove the Saturday at both locations from 8 to 3
On the 24th.
on the 24th.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? How could there possibly be? Thank you very much. I'll call for a vote on that motion. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. There you have it. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Having taken care of the early voting plan, our next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes from previous meetings. And if you can shuffle your papers around and put them in order, we have them from July 27th, August 22nd, and October 3rd. And it's my inclination, even though I seem a little bit extra steps, to take at least to consider each one of them at a time to see if there are any questions for clarification or suggested revisions. to these minutes, in which case, once we have agreed on the language, then, but there's some kind of changing horses in midstream, that once we have discussed and agreed on any changes, corrections, or edits to these three sets of minutes, then we will vote on whether to accept them. Does that seem workable? All right, thank you very much. For Tuesday, July 27th meeting, it was a special meeting that was called. So does any board member have a question for clarification or a revision to the minutes as we received them?
I have some proposed revisions.
Yes, ma'am.
Under the acceptance of the director's duties, my name is Holly, not Molly.
I was waiting to meet Ms. Molly as an extra member of the board. Thank you.
I do, on the delegation of secretarial duties, this is what we discussed, and I believe it is correctly stated. I wanted to note that we're not following it. We're not following that, what we agreed to that day, by doing this as we're doing them, but I'm just pointing that out
Right.
for future consideration. I
But
hope
you're
we will
acknowledging
follow.
This is what happened in that
Yes,
meeting.
this is
Yes.
what happened in that meeting. Under resolution of transfer of voters, I think it should say on the second line, well, it should say Director Dixon presented to the board a resolution to temporarily rather than of temporarily. And then it sounds like, okay, it sounds like we're repeating ourselves. So a few lines down where it says Marty Carpenter made a motion to accept the temporary transfer. It could just be a period there. We don't need to say what we've already said above, which is who's being transferred where. Isn't that all already stated?
I'm looking
Here,
up at
say
this.
that
You're
again,
doing a
because I
separate
didn't-
one.
It's the same one.
Okay.
Look at resolution of transfer on the back.
Okay, all right.
Do you see what I'm saying?
So you say put a period after
After,
to accept the temporary transfer?
yes, and then you can strike everything
Yes, ma'am.
until the motion was seconded, because it's just repeating what it says above. Right?
Because all of this
Mhm.
repeats all
Veto
of that.
that up there.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Does that make sense to everyone?
Holly, anything else?
I would move that with those changes, we approve the minutes for July 27th.
Hang on, just a second. There might be other people who have
Yeah, I'm sorry.
suggestions on
I'm
this
sorry.
date. Anyone else have a revision or a correction on July 7th, excuse me, July 27th minutes? I've got one, on the second page, smack in the middle. Tell me if this makes sense to you. Resolution of out of precinct voting. Director Dixon explained to the board that there are several precincts that are not inside the precinct boundaries. Is it the case that there are several precinct voting sites that are not in the?
Yeah.
Okay, so then I would suggest adding.
Or precinct locations.
They're polling
What-
places.
Polling
Polling
places,
places.
polling
Thank you
places.
for your terminology.
Several polling places.
Several
Yeah.
precinct polling places that are not inside the precinct boundaries. Thank you. That's all I've got for that one. Okay. So Holly, now we can either make a motion, so I can discuss and approve them one at a time, since you've already sort of gotten there, or we can review the other ones and then vote on the whole batch.
Okay.
Okay, one at a time is fine. Is there a second? To
I'll
Holly's?
second it, just with it, including the changes that have just been presented.
Thank you very much. Any further discussion? Call for vote. All in favor of accepting the minutes of July 27th as revised, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those are good. The minutes, please, for Tuesday, August 22nd, to appoint precinct chief judges and elections meetings. Are there terrific, long, comprehensive, and detailed meeting. Are there any corrections or suggested edits to this set of minutes? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve these minutes?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Assume no discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Excellent. On Wednesday, October 3rd, another special meeting. Are there any corrections or edits suggested for this set of minutes?
Yes, I have a question. Halfway down the first page, number memo 2020. Dash 2025, I believe the 20 before the 25 is inappropriate because it's memo 2020-25. Is that not correct? Tawana? There shouldn't be a 2025.
No, but you're right.
It's not a year.
Yeah, it's not supposed to be a
It's the
year.
25th numbered memo in that year.
And then
So it's 20-20.
on the back,
No, it's 2020 dash.
Dash
25,
Like you got it
like it's above.
here.
Oh,
I think everything about the precinct judge update is correct, but there's kind of a disconnect on the back page where it says, it talks about Pine Bluff, talks about Pine Dean, and that Anne Marie related to us, those two people didn't want to serve. And then all of a sudden it says, I made a motion to add East Knollwood, but I didn't just make that up out of the blue. Anne Marie told us that the person that we had appointed as chief judge in East Knollwood didn't want to serve. So that it needs to say that.
If she had to resign or work, I believe is what she said.
Right, Pat.
Yeah, she had to resign due to work conflicts
Right.
after.
So it should say that in the East Knollwood precinct, Patricia
Watts resigned as judge.
had, yes, and then it can say, I made the motion.
Okay.
Well, I didn't make a motion to add it. You brought it up, right, Anne Marie?
I think I did.
Yeah, so
I
there-
did.
it should read the way the others read. It came up in the same kind of sequence. Anne Marie brought it to our attention. And you brought a recommendation about who should be appointed, and then I might have moved, I don't remember, that we followed her recommendation, and then Marty might have seconded it. Again, I don't know that.
Someone, either Anne Marie or
Yeah.
Holly, have a.
It wasn't something I brought up
No,
out
no,
of the blue.
Do you have suggested language to replace what's here now?
You could word it just like the one, let me see. Wait a minute, I think maybe these things are run together because in Pine Dean, what did we do? Oh, okay, they were all, I see. Just strike the first two sentences of that paragraph and then it makes sense. In other words,
Starting it in the Pine Dean precinct?
no, it should,
Or what do
okay,
you wanna
Pine Dean paragraph is fine. In the next paragraph, strike all the way from my name
Uh-huh.
through the end of the second sentence. It
Okay.
should start, in the East Knollwood precinct, Patricia Watts resigned as chief judge, Anne Marie recommended Sarah. And then the next paragraph is
Ah.
correct. That's what's wrong. That whole part was
It's actually the first
Out of
three,
order.
actually the first three
the
sentences.
first three
Three,
sentences.
yeah.
Yes. And then it's all correct. Because we voted on all the changes at once.
Correct.
Okay.
Great. Everybody good with that change? Is there a motion to accept these minutes as revised?
I move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor of accepting the revised minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimously approved. Terrific. The last thing I have on my agenda is legal updates, and I will pass the ball back to Ms. Dixon.
So I just want the board to be made aware that come next year, I'm sorry, don't make no plans. So I will be sending out a calendar to the board, hopefully at the end of this month or the beginning of next month of everything that's gonna be taking place coming up real soon. Because your first absentee board meeting will actually be January the 30th. I love you too, Mark. So I just want the board to be aware of that. So everything is really gonna be coming kind of quickly. So I just want, so you will get a calendar. I'm looking at my master calendar now, and I just wanted the board to be aware. I had to put the notice up. Absentee ballots are gonna be, they have to be made available so many days before the election. So, but your first absentee board meeting it's supposed to be scheduled, like I said, January the 30th of 2023. So I just wanted you to be aware of that. I also wanted you to be aware of, at this moment, we know that the 2 House bills did pass, which changes the makeup of the board. However, at this time, the state board and legal have no information as to what is to take place. How is that supposed to go on? So at this moment, we will continue to operate as a 5-member board until they either reach out to you as board members, they reach out to your party. I don't know how they're gonna do it, but at this time, I still have 5. We're still gonna continue to push through because I have a lot of things turning over, as you can see. So like I said, I will get that calendar out to you. We will continue to work as a 5-member board, so nobody's going anywhere at this moment, which is good, which is a good thing at this moment. Candidate filing does begin December the 15th, ends December the 15th, but it does start December the 4th. We did not get changed in any of the congressional, House, or Senate at this moment. I know that they do have some things that are pending in court, but at this moment, Moore County did not get touched, which is great for me.
As far as redistricting.
Yes, as far as redistricting. So, yes, ma'am.
So I know there are some congressional districts that are being challenged in court. Are you saying that you think that the primaries would go on in the districts that aren't being affected, or because I thought if those court proceedings proceed and there's some sort of injunction stopping the primary, it would stop statewide?
Well, it depends. I've been in both situations before where we continue with the election and it was a congressional that was affected. They took that off the ballot. We still went on until they got those congressional lines straight. And then we came back for another election. We did that election, but we couldn't release any information. And then once that election took place, then we released everything at one time. So it's really tricky. I'm not quite sure what they're going to do. There has been some counties where only those that were affected didn't participate, and those who weren't could participate, and they have done that in times past. We're not quite sure yet what they're going to do, but as soon as I get word or hear anything, I will let the board know. So at this moment, we're just continuing to do what we need to do. because they're not sure either, because the state board is being moved under the Secretary of State in January as well, and they don't know what's going on with them. So at this moment, like I said, because I have so many things beginning to take place, I wish they kind of would have waited to June and get us through the primary. That would have been easier, because nobody knows anything right now. So I will get, like I said, the calendar out so you will be able to know your schedules ahead of time. It won't be this week though.
Not a problem.
So you will know what's taking place with that. And that was the main thing. I just needed you to know that at this moment, I have a 5-member board. So when January hits, nobody disappear, nobody
Right.
turn off their cell phone numbers. I still need to be able to call you.
We will stay tuned
You
in.
stay tuned, because like I said, the board, they're not sure as to how everything is supposed to play out. So they're not sure. So Marty, I see.
It looks like they're going to have to make a decision before the absentee ballots go out. Because if they make a decision on districts after that, then you got to start all over again.
Well, like I said, I would kind of wish that they would have waited. I don't think they realized that absentee ballots would have to go out so soon. And yes, that would be very messy to try to switch a board over. And my first absentee board meeting is January the 30th. So I'm not quite sure. Maybe you want a petition, the state.
My guess is the lawsuits will go a little bit faster,
No, I
just
doubt
based
it.
on the new court system, that things will probably go a little bit faster this time around. If not, then we're probably looking at, like we did last year, was May. We did it 2 years ago. That'll really screw everything up, but we have no control over that.
You have no control, but yeah.
I
So-
believe they asked to expedite the ruling.
Did they?
Yeah, that's
As
what I
of
thought.
December 1st. They would like a ruling
Yeah.
by December 1st, so that it doesn't push back the primary. But now whether or not that happens, they did just ask,
Well, and it could keep going up the chain.
so.
Yeah.
As far as you know, is the training conference for board members and staff
That's-
still taking place?
That's still
in
taking place
February?
in February, and I still have everything locked in. So as we know, that's why I said, don't go nowhere, don't turn up the phone. We're still doing everything as if nothing changed. That's why I will get the new calendars out. Until they tell us otherwise, we're just acting like everything is still in place. And it is. That's how I'm looking at it. It's still in place. The one-stop plan that we put in place, even if they switched over, did whatever, this plan stays in effect. It does not change, it does not move, it doesn't anything. So that's how we're going to continue to move forward from this point on. So I still have you, huh? So,
We don't want to leave.
well, I'm just saying, don't leave. So I'm just letting you know. So when that could be, a lot of the boards were kind of wondering how everything was going to take place, and no one knows. And like I said, I missed the redistricting, so I'm kind of glad with that. So I'm hoping that I get to do my election. I don't know about nobody else. So and everything of that nature. Your first absentee. So I would need to meet with the board again, probably in December, so that we can do the resolutions for the absentee process, the mail ballot. So if, once I send out the calendar, I will ask the board what days works, so that you can come back to meet to do the absentee resolutions and any other resolutions that we need to have done by the board and to have signed. So everything is in place before that first meeting, because you have to, have it done so far in advance before that first absentee board meeting takes place. And but it'd be in December.
Right, and is that analogous to meetings and resolutions that we looked at prior to the
Yes,
municipal?
it's
That's right.
basically the same process.
Right.
But as you know, you got a taste of it this go around with the absentee process, but just think it's gonna be a lot more.
Sure,
So it's
we
best
can
to,
hope so.
yes. Oh, no. Oh. It will be, usually with a presidential and your new commander-in-chief being involved, more military ballots kick in and things of that nature, so you will see an uptick. Now, your first one, you may not have too many, but by the time it starts rolling in, you'll see the uptick.
Right.
And so I just, plan to be here a little bit longer. That hour was so nice, but that might not happen this go round.
Right.
To follow up on something we talked about last time, when we just briefly said that maybe some of us would be willing to look at the whole process, and you were talking about changing things, the instructions to poll workers to make their job clearer, easier. We certainly want to follow up on that. If there's something that, and I think all of us were interested in helping. So whenever you want to do that, or
I'm still getting everything in place. Yes, ma'am.
whatever the easiest way to help you without throwing a monkey wrench into the process. We'd like to do that.
Yes, ma'am, and we're just beginning to notify poll workers, because if I don't notify them now, because they thought we were kind of playing like the turnaround is like quickly. We're notifying them now. So it's gonna be busy for you guys. I'm sorry.
What we signed on for.
Oh, you're gonna have your calendar as soon as I get all that out to you. You'll have it. And so that's all I have. Just wanted to let you know that.
That's great. Thanks.
Anne Marie's our contact for poll people if they want to sign up.
Nicholas.
Nick is?
Nick is the contact person for poll workers.
Okay. Anne Marie, I give you everything. I'm sorry.
Yes.
So Nick is the
You
contact.
need to sleep at some point.
You are so
Come
right.
on.
So Nick is the contact person for poll workers.
Okay. That's good to know, because I do recommend her for, I'm sorry.
No. And students too. So
And
if you
kids.
have any students, he's also the contact person for poll workers.
What's Nick's last name?
Nick, McCraw, MC, Graw.
Oh, I'm a girl, okay.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Anything else from other board members? All right, terrific. In that case, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thanks, everybody, for coming. We really appreciate your engagement in the process and in our community.
What?
Yeah.
There you go.
Are you planning on me to review these?
I
almost didn't have time to do it. I read them right before the meeting.
Whenever I see all this, never the issue.